Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, as we continue looking at percentiles and z-scores, we're going to look at a different type of plot. This is the cumulative relative frequency plot, and it's going to rely on connecting our idea of percentiles to a plot. Cumulative relative frequency plots are a display that provides a summative total. Lost my pen for a moment. They're providing a summative total summative meaning adding, so we're going to be adding things together, of the relative frequency of each interval. So this is going back to the same idea we had in a histogram. We're going to have an interval within a quantitative display. So cumulative frequency plots take histograms and turning into a plot that gives us a running total of each frequency. We can use them to get a percentile because it's going to start from 0 on the left and it will add all the way up to 100 going as each interval. So if you're looking at this plot, which is measuring median income in thousands of dollars against the relative frequency on the y-axis, we have our break here because we skipped all the way to 40. So we have, looks like our intervals are 5. So this is using an interval of 5. So this has an interval of 5. So you can see it's going from 40 to 50, 50 to 50, or 40 to 45, 50 to 45 to 50, and so on. So if we wanted to know, we can assume, we're going to assume the relative frequency running total can be a percentile. So if I wanted to know the median, we had a median income of 75,000. Median income of 75,000. We could look at 75,000 on the plot here. 75,000. We could go up till we hit the plot. And we're going to go across. And that looks to be about, so 75,000 is the 80th percentile. As it hits the graph, and that's at 80th percentile. It works the other way as well. Let's say we wanted to know where Q. I want to know Q1. What is the median income for Q1, that first quartile? We know from our conversation yesterday that the first quartile is the 25th percentile. We'll change color here. Use blue. So we go up to 25th. So the count looks like it's counted by 10. So I'm going to be right there in the middle. So we're going to right in the middle. I'm going to be nice and slow, coming right across till I hit my line. It looks like it's just past 55. So we'll go ahead and say that's at 56,000. We are estimating here, so if you wrote 55,000 for this one, that would have been acceptable. So relative frequency graph, because it's running from 0 all the way up till it hits 100%, it will never be exceeding 100%. So that's what a cumulative frequency plot is, and we can read by using the graph as percentiles. So let's talk about how to construct them. Okay, so here's another graph. We're looking at a practice here. We've got the cumulative relative frequency plot for the amount spent by a sample of 50 grocery shoppers at a store. And our first question is, we want to know what percentile for the shopper who spent $19.50. So $19.50 is right before 20. really close to 20, so I'm just going to go right up against 20. And I've lost my pen. There we go. Okay, so right up against 20. Oh. Okay, we're back again here. Right up against 20, really close, not quite 20. If it's that one, then I can go right across. Looks like it's above 10, not quite to half, so I'm going to estimate it at about 14%. So from 1950, which we said was close to 20, we went up to the graph and then over to the y-axis. It looks like we're at the 14th percentile. $19.50, not a lot of people are spending that money, and not a lot of people are spending less than that money. So 14th percentile. Now we're, okay, so that's our graphic from that one. You can do it the other way. We could find the 80th percentile. So we'll go right up to 80. I'm going to change pen colors again. So I'm going to go to 80. This is looking for the 80th percentile. We're going to go to 80%. And come across till we hit the graph. And that one looks to be a little more than 50. So the 80th percentile. And we'll call that $53. $53. So if we want to interpret that, that is telling us that the individual spending, an individual spending $53 at the grocery store spends more than 80% of other customers. Remember, percentile is at that value, it's telling us what percent of the population or what percent of the sample is less than our given value. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so that's how we're reading the graphs. Continue discussion. Let's build a graph. So here we're given a histogram of composition scores. Not sure the details of it. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to have to create that plot first. So it looks like our intervals. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intervals to get to 10. So our intervals are 2. Intervals of 2. So it looks like we've got 1, 0, 4, 3, 9, 8, 7. This one's 5. And this one looks to be, I'm going to call this one 16. So there's the height of each of the graphs, and we need, in order to find relative frequencies, these are absolute frequencies, we're going to need the total. So 1 plus 0 is 0 is 1, 4 is 5, 8, 15. 15 and 8 is 23, 32, 48, 53. So there's a so n for this one, or the sample size for this one is 53. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to calculate. So we're going to have to calculate the relative frequency for each of these. So that's going to be the absolute frequencies divided by our sample size. So our first one is 1 divided by 53. And I have to tell it to give me rounded values. And we get 2.02. I'm going to round these, keep them easy, because we're going to have to plot them later. So we're going to call that one 2%. This one is 0.02. We can tell that's going to be 0. We're going to do 4 divided by 53. Oops, that didn't work right. 4. I'm going to call that one 8. And 3 divided by 53. 6%. We're going to continue doing those and finding all of those relative frequencies. So here we have now all of the percents added up. And these are the relative frequencies, but remember this is a cumulative relative frequency plot, which is a summative total. So we're going to have to go and find the sums from each total. So the value for each interval is going to be the sum of that interval and the previous intervals. So the first one's still going to be 0.02. There is nothing to the left of that one. So this one is still 0.02. Now we're going to add, in this case, we're going to add 0, so it's still 0.2. And we add 0.8, so now we have 0.1. Adding 0.6, so we're now at 0.16. And keep on going. 2.9, 4.3, 0.6, 0.9, and then we get 0.99. You see we've come up a little short, but that was due to rounding. Remember we rounded all of these values, so we lost something in the rounding. That will happen occasionally, and if you come up to 0.99, or sometimes you gain a little bit in the rounding, so we might end up with 1.01. That is fine. We're going to treat this last one. We're just going to go ahead and treat this last one like it is 1.0. All right, so now we're going to plot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I made my graph a little too small, so we'll just go ahead and plot 10 right here. These are relative frequencies, so we're going to be counting by 10. So in my usual case, I'm just going to label every other. Remember, this is relative frequency. And down here, we know we got to get to that 16, 18. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, just enough to get there. So 4, 8, 16. And this is the composite score. So now we're plotting the blue points. Now the right left edge is at 0. So our very first point is going to be at 0, 0. The graph always starts at 0. I'm going to plot these in red so we can see them. So I'm plotting 0, 0. Now the first interval, so that's at 2, is at 2%. So this is 5%. 2% is going to be right there. 4 is off. Oops, that's supposed to be at 2, and I plotted it at 1, so let's fix that. And there's 2. 4, we haven't added anything. The blue is still 0, 2%, so we'll plot that. 6 goes all the way up to 10%. And we continue plotting the blue marks. So 8 is at 16%. Right about there. And we got 29%, which is almost 30. It's a bigger rise, so we can see steeper climb. 12 is at 43%. Then the next one is at 14 is up at 60%. 16 is at 90%. Need to move my thing over. That was that big spike, so we can see a big jump here. And now this is where, very different from any other plots, we're just going to go ahead and connect our plot line by dot to dot. So it's going to be a much different plot than you're used to. It's not going to be a smooth curve. See, I'm taking the time. I'm just drawing each segment by itself. And there's our relative frequency graph. So what I'm going to ask here in this next question, as you can see, is it curving? We got a couple of spots where it got really steep. And we're asked ourselves to compare the two distributions. So we can tell from the histogram. So the histogram is skewed left and unimodal. So we look in the cumulative frequency graph, and can we really tell it is skewed left? We see one really steep climb, and then it dropped off again. No really bigger jumps. So we can definitely see, because there's only one big jump, that supports the unimodal idea. But for the skewedness, maybe we could tell that this is a long run from the left till we got to the big jump to the high point, and then it flattened out after that. So maybe that supports it. The histogram has a gap. And here we can see the gap in the gap right here, because it has a zero growth. Zero growth. That's telling us there's a gap. Zero growth was a gap. Other than that, was continued climbing till we had the steep point, and then went shallow again. So the gap, and that's in the frequency plot. That gap is in the frequency plot because of the zero growth, the flat spot. And we can see that those are the two things. So we can find the different parts of the histogram in the dot plot, in the relative frequency graph, if we're willing to do a little detective work. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've got one more example here. This one is built from Okay, so here we have another graph looking at the represent miles per gallon estimates for cars selected randomly from among 93 models. Consumer Road. Here they gave us a table where they gave us the intervals. You can see 15 to 20. It looks like the lower bounds are on edge, but we're given the frequency and then we're given the percentages. This helps us. They already calculated the relative frequencies for us. So all we're going to have to do is add them together and create our running total. Okay, so starting out, looks like we start at the bottom end, which is 15. I'm going to go ahead here. So this one is still going to be 0.376. I'm going to go ahead and round those to make it easier for us what we're going to do. I'll make that 3.8. So we're going to add 37 to that. So that is going to be 75. Now we're going to add 17. So it's 92. Adding 5 is 97. 98. 99. And 100. So there's our frequencies that we are going to plot in our graph. So we come over to our graph again. So 10, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. And use a break. Use a break. This one jump right to 15. 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So 20, 30, 40, 50. And this is miles per gallon. This is mileage in miles per gallon. All right, so first one's about 38. I'm going to go back to red for my points. So our first one is at 38%. So it's 15 at 38. There's 30, there's 35, so there's 38. And we're going to go all the way up for 25. Ooh. Oops, I did that wrong. The left edge is at 15, so 15 is at 0. 20 is at 38. 25 is at 75. So this one's jumping up really fast. So that's going to lead us to probably think that it is skewed to the right because we're getting a big jump and then it's going to get much flatter. So it's going to start going down again. So looks here, 82 is at 30. 30 is at 82. And 35 is at 97. Let me erase some of these extraneous marks. 97. Oops, put that in the wrong spot. Here's 35 is at 97. And we got 98. Oops. 99. 100. So we're looking at that one's flattening out. It's really slow change right here. So it's almost going to look flat. So now we can connect, go ahead and connect these. So we got that really big jump to start. Almost a second big jump. and then it starts to flatten. So if this was a histogram, and so these big jumps right here from the start, leading up to a peak, and then it's going back down. So it's probably a unimodal graph and skewed to the right, but we need the histogram to know that for sure. There's our plot. Now we're going to go use this one particularly to estimate quartiles. I'm going to estimate Q1, Q2, and Q3, and we know that Q1 is at 25, is the 25th, Q2 is the 50th, and Q3 is the 75th. So the 25th, here's 25 on the light axis. I'm going to come across. We're going to come down. And so that's about 17, 18. So we're going to call this one 19 miles per gallon. And we're going to do the same thing for the 50th. So we'll go up to 50. Come across, hit that point. And we're going to come straight down. This one is nice, hit right on a line. So 20, 25. This one's right on the line. So we're going to call that 22.5 miles per gallon. Now for the 75th, we're going to do the same thing. Come up here 70, here's 75. I hit right on that spot again. Come down. And that is at 25. This as well is sorting out, also supporting that idea that it was skewed to the right. If we had 75th percentile, we only got to 25 gallons. We still have the rest of the graph to go, so it's going to have to fall off quickly there. So that one gives that to 25 miles per gallon. So I hope, ladies and gentlemen, this helps you in understanding these, because you have a practice set, which are the next few slides. There's 1, 2, 3, 3 plots to do. One is giving you from a histogram, basic frequency table, and then another frequency table. And there are some follow-up questions, so make sure you follow those. Okay, remember, intervals, classes, bins, all the same thing. All right? And that, ladies and gentlemen, remember, you've got the quiz to make up. If you haven't done that quiz from Monday, make sure you are making an appointment to make it up. You need to make it up by Friday. Any issues with that, you need to talk to me before Friday. If you talk to me on Friday and say you can't make it, we're going to have an issue. It will be recorded as a 0. You need to talk to me before Friday. So that would be tomorrow. And your practice set today is those 3 plots. And have both the practice set from yesterday and today's practice set in class tomorrow, so that we can talk about them and go over them with your questions. Thank you very much.